Mi Liu was the world's first half-Bloodivore, born from a human mother and Bloodivore father who used him as a lab experiment, but when his mother mysteriously disappeared, he ended up in an orphanage where he found his chosen family. Years later, he became a bank robber trying to save that same orphanage from being sold, only to be framed for murders he didn't commit. However, before any of this, on a sunny day, Mi Liu is being chased by some police cars, but he just drives his Porsche like he doesn't care and listen to Michael Jackson songs. He asks Angie, a girl sitting beside him, if she likes this song, but she ignores him, so he promises her to lose these police cars soon. The police start shooting at him, but he tries to protect Angie and decides to take a tunnel path. He then gives Angie a bag full of grenades and tells her to throw these at police cars. She then throws the grenade at them, which causes massive explosions and all the police cars explode. However, at the end of tunnel a BST tank blocks their way, which surprises the guy. Earlier, the news reports to the public that the court in the city is now getting ready for 236 trials about people using the drug, because the bad side effects are hurting lives and causing problems for many families, but the company that made the drug will not be punished. At the same time, Mi Liu and Angie are sitting together in a coffee shop when a human-like creature, called a Bloodivore, suddenly shows up and attacks a woman right in front of them. The monster bites into her and drinks her blood, but then a group of soldiers rushes in and shoot him. Afterward, Angie shows up and tells Mi Liu that they should not go through with their plan today, but Liu is stubborn and wants to make sure something happens, so the whole group leaves together. Later on, the friend who is with Liu points a gun at some bank workers and forces them to give the password to the safe. At the same time, Liu is busy trying to hack into the bank system, explaining that the headquarters always makes a random 12-digit password and sends it to the server every time. He then uses a special device that lets him update everything and reset all the settings, which gives them the right to change the password on their own. Right away, Liu quickly resets the password for the safe and shares it with Angie, who then uses it to open the heavy safe door in front of them. Meanwhile, outside the bank, another one of Liu's team members named Chen Fang waits in his Porsche, ready to drive fast for a quick getaway. After grabbing all the money from the safe, Liu tells Wen Chao to hurry up and move quickly, so the whole group starts running toward the exit. On the way, Angie drops some of the cash, and when Wen Chao tries to pick it up, they end up spotting a small kid hiding inside the bathroom. Wen Chao immediately points his gun straight at the kid's face as soon as he sees him, but Angie quickly steps in and refuses to allow him kill the child. Right at that moment, Liu shoves Wen Chao away just in time, and suddenly Angie's DGPS alarm goes off, which causes the police to close in on their spot. Wen Chao says Angie cannot go with them because her DGPS is giving away their signal directly to the cops, but Liu makes a sudden decision and throws one bag of cash outside before leaving both Wen Chao and Chen Fang behind as he drives away in the car together with Angie. Back in the present, Liu and Angie are caught right after they come out of the tunnel, and at the same time Wen Chao and Chen Fang are also captured by the authorities. The news on TV reports that every one of them is actually an underage Bloodivore and that they were all raised together in the same orphanage since childhood. Later, at the police station, Liu is sitting in the room where he is being interrogated by a police officer, and the officer lists out all the charges against him, saying that he has committed forgery, that he has interfered with public duties, that he has broken traffic laws, and that he is being accused of illegally carrying and controlling dangerous weapons. The officer also says that Liu is a BST director's son who can get out of this scot-free. Liu then admits his crimes and says that he will contribute to society through some labor work and his crimes will be lifted off based on some Juvenile Protection Act of minors. Hearing that, the officer freaks out and grabs Liu by his collar, and then, Liu sees that 15 people have died in the bank which they never killed. A few days later, all 4 of them are brought into the court for their trial, and Liu stands there thinking to himself how it could be possible, because the 4 of them had always been together, so who was the real person that murdered all those people? At that moment, the judge makes the final decision and announces that every one of them will be given the death penalty, which completely terrifies Wen Chao. After the trial ends, one of the officer escorts Liu over to the prison, and while he is walking inside, he suddenly runs into his father, who turns out to be the director of BST. He tells Liu that this time he cannot save him no matter what happens, and when he brings up the subject of Liu's mother, Liu loses his temper and angrily shoves his father hard against the wall. After that, his father coldly tells Liu that they are no longer father and son anymore, and then he presses his arm down and begins burning Liu's hand painfully with it. Later that night, all of them are being transported away in a police van, but out of nowhere a group of soldiers suddenly shows up on the road and starts firing their guns straight inside the van. After that, a flashback begins where Liu's father, Tenju, is standing in front of reporters and giving a press conference, and he announces the results of a project they have been working on, which is called the Child of Peace. At that moment, a young boy walks onto the stage together with a woman who looks like a goddess, and she introduces herself as Shimon Guching, the chief of the BST genetics research team. She tells the crowd that the boy is her child and also the world's very first half-bloodivore, which leaves the whole audience whispering in confusion and wondering how it could be possible that he is only half-human. She then explains further that the boy was born to her and Tenju, who is a bloodivore, and that the child is none other than Liu himself. Back in the present, Liu suddenly wakes up from his sleep, and when he looks around for Angie, he is surprised to instead see another girl lying on the ground right next to another man. Liu keeps looking around and notices that there is a backpack placed nearby, and when he checks it, he sees that it carries all of his belongings and even a weapon inside it. As he pays closer attention, he realizes that the others each have a backpack of their own as well. When he reaches out and tries to open one of their bags, the red-haired man jumps up and attacks him, grabbing his arm and almost breaking it, while at the same moment the woman wakes up too and demands to know who they are. The man asks the others if they were also sentenced to death, and he explains that it looks like they are all trapped in this place together, but Liu starts to think that Angie and the rest of his friends could still be alive somewhere as well. After that, the red-haired man puts his clothes back on and tells everyone that they should introduce themselves properly. The girl speaks first and says that her name is Cho Ifan, and then he introduces himself as Li Xin, an assassin. Suddenly, a noise begins to echo around them and the heavy door of the cell is locked slowly opens. Right after this, all of the people from the nearby prison cells begin to leave at once, and Liu realizes with fear that this place they are in might actually be some kind of Bloodivore concentration camp. Suddenly, the main gate of the camp opens and a girl walks in who looks exactly like Angie, and she tells everyone that their death sentence has been cancelled, which shocks them all. Liu immediately tries to run toward her, but the real Angie stops him before he can reach the girl. Despite this, everyone in the group starts laughing because they think they are finally going to be released, but the girl quickly tells them that they will have to stay here in Aori for the rest of their lives. Right at that moment, a fat man suddenly moves toward the girl who looks like Angie and violently tears her clothes apart, and in response, Chen Fang quickly runs forward and kicks the man hard in the face, thinking that the girl is the real Angie. The man then suddenly knocks out Chen Fang, but when Liu tries to step in and stop him, the fat man's companions immediately move forward and try to threaten Liu as well. As they advance, they notice Angie hiding quietly behind him and demand that Liu move aside so they can deal with her. Just then, Win Chao suddenly appears and points his gun straight at the man's head. At the same time, Chen Fang's DGPS and the prisoner who is fighting him start to activate, flashing warnings everywhere. The prisoner's DGPS suddenly counts down to 0 and his head violently explodes, causing the rest of the prisoners around them to panic. After the chaos, the girl explains to everyone that the collars they are all wearing are not ordinary, as they are rigged with explosives to prevent anyone from fighting each other, which is why they have to be extremely careful. Hearing this, everyone in the group immediately moves toward the girl, ready to kill her, but Chen Fang suddenly wakes up and quickly stands in front of her to protect her, but Liu shouts at him that she is not the real Angie. Meanwhile, the detective is watching the truck where the shooting started, the one that targeted Liu and his friends, and he is trying hard to figure out who is responsible, since the group was not supposed to be killed yet. Just then, he gets a phone call, and while he is talking, he asks the other person on the line if they can check the list of prisoners who have gone missing or died in the last 2 years. At the same time, the girl who looks like Angie is suddenly attacked and killed by a massive monster, and the creature then begins to turn on the other prisoners. Seeing this, Liu quickly grabs Angie and starts running away as fast as he can to save her. The prisoners keep shooting at the monsters, but most of them get killed quickly, and some even take their own lives out of fear and desperation. Suddenly, the monster stops moving for a moment, and then it uses its special ability to devour all the remaining prisoners at once, leaving nothing behind. After that, the monster looks around the area, while Liu and Angie stay hidden somewhere nearby, slowly making their way closer to the exit door. They keep running carefully, but then Cho Ifan calls out for help, drawing the monster's attention toward him, so it moves to attack Liu instead. Just as the monster lunges at him, it suddenly gets destroyed and the force of it pushes Liu back violently. Liu falls down on the ground and quickly asks Angie if she is okay, and she yells back at him that she is fine and doing alright. Right then, the monster suddenly appears behind Angie, but Li Xin reacts fast and throws a blade straight at the creature, shouting for Angie and Ifan to run away as quickly as they can. Li Xin then charges forward toward the monster himself and starts attacking it fiercely with his swords, while in the background the rest of the prisoners are still struggling and fighting against the other monsters in the area. At the same time, one of the prisoners manages to put together an explosive bomb, but before he can use it, He gets killed and the bomb ends up sliding across the ground until it reaches Chenfang, who is still frozen in shock and unable to move. Just as the bomb is about to explode, Chenfang finally gathers his courage and grabs the bomb tightly and runs straight toward the entrance with it before throwing it. The blast manages to break apart from the entrance doors. As soon as the gate bursts open, all of the prisoners rush toward it and begin escaping through the opening, but at the same time Liu saves Angie from a monster that suddenly tries to attack her from behind. However, the other girl who was with Angie is still stuck in the monster's grasp, so Liu quickly tells Angie to take a gun from his bag and use it to fight back. Without wasting time, she pulls out the weapon and starts firing at the monster again and again until she manages to bring it down and save the girl's life. Afterward, Liu tells Angie that the only way for them to escape now is to crawl through the air vent, so they both begin moving inside it carefully. Suddenly, Liu looks through a gap and sees Li Xin completely finishing off the monster, but right after that more monsters start charging after him. Meanwhile, the rest of the prisoners run toward the main exit, but when they get inside, they realize with shock that there is no real way out waiting for them. At the same time, Liu and his friends are still crawling slowly through the dark vent where they can barely see anything ahead, until they finally come across several ducts that might possibly lead outside. Angie then asks if they should split up and search for different ones, but Liu refuses, saying that would be far too risky and dangerous for them right now. Suddenly, Ifan turns to Liu and asks him directly if he is a hemomancer, but Liu has no idea what that even means, so instead he asks Angie to hand him the gun. Liu begins taking out each bullet one by one and dropping them down, while explaining that some hemomancer are said to have special powers, and then he pushes the bullets further through the vent. At the same time, he questions Angie, asking why they are being forced to wear collars that are rigged with explosives and also why the robotic girl they saw earlier looked exactly like her. Meanwhile, the monsters that had been chasing and attacking the other prisoners suddenly stop moving all at once, which makes everyone start to wonder if a hemomancer might actually be nearby and controlling things. After that, a young man with blonde hair calls out to the person who is a hemomancer and asks him for help with something. Working together, the hemomancer forms a solid wall and then uses his own blood ability to lift and move all the heavy objects that are in the room, stacking them up tightly to block the door completely. At the same time, Liu and the girls finally manage to crawl out of the air vent, and they find themselves inside a room that looks like an empty office space with no one else around them. As they start talking about what they should do next, Liu turns back to tell them to keep moving forward, but he suddenly notices that Angie's clothes are badly torn and ripped up from crawling through tight space. Liu decides to look around a different area since Angie feels clearly uncomfortable where they are. While he searches around, he finds a map that shows the building is planned to be done by the year 2327, which is still 2 years from now. After that, we see a flashback from Liu's past when he was younger. He is back in his old school, and some police officers work with the teacher to tell all the students they need to leave the classroom right away because a Bloodivore is attacking the school. Everyone runs out fast, but Liu stays behind in the room and gets stopped by his teacher. Going back to the present time, Ifan starts acting weird with Angie, bothering her and even grabbing at her in ways that make her feel uneasy and uncomfortable, while Liu keeps focusing on his search for clues. We then see the flashback continue as the Bloodivore grabs Liu and drags him to the edge of the school building. The police shouted at him to let Liu go, but the Bloodivore says he only wants to speak with Tenju. However, Tenju doesn't show up in person and instead sends a small drone carrying a microphone and recorder so he can watch and talk from a distance. During the talk, Tenju tells him that even if he has Liu as a hostage, it won't change anything. In the end, before the Bloodivore is taken down and he throws Liu off the balcony. Back in the present, a detective is shown investigating the sudden deaths of the prisoners who all died within the span of a month. While reviewing the cases, he gets a call informing him that there are no official records of the bodies, nor any details about what happened to them afterward. Looking at Liu's photo, he realizes that Liu has disappeared as well, just like the others. All of them were Bloodivore sentenced to death, yet their deaths are being written off as accidents. Suspicious, the detective tries to dig into the BST database and starts wondering what really happened to the other 3 who were with Liu and decides to look into the orphanage that they all grew up in. Meanwhile, Liu and the others move cautiously through the eerie corridors of the building. Liu advises them to search for anything useful: weapons, tools and food, since survival comes first. Suddenly, Angie asks whether they are truly on the 4th floor, pointing out that they hadn't traveled far enough through the ventilation ducts for that to make sense, as Liu also finds it strange and admits that while hard to believe, it feels as though they've been caught in some kind of space-time intersection. Hearing that, Ifan starts laughing and says Liu must have gone crazy or gotten really relaxed if he can make jokes like that. But Liu starts walking and tells them that the past, present and future are all mixed together in this place. Angie asks if that means they are in a different dimension. Liu says that it is true but also tells them it is not fully right, and he explains that the fight inside the warehouse might still be going on right now. Ifan does not believe him and asks if they are really going to be stuck here forever without having any way to escape. After that, they walk through the corridor and Liu notices a bunch of claw marks scratched into the walls, so he quickly tells everyone to stay quiet. Meanwhile, the young man with blonde hair keeps using his special ability to stop the big pile of collected materials from falling down and creating room for the monsters to get through. However, everyone around him warns him that the doors will not hold much longer against the pressure. The blonde-haired guy responds by telling them that he is not supposed to be their hero and that they need to help him with this problem. The other prisoners who are trapped there make the decision to assist him by grabbing onto parts of the mountain of materials and holding them up with their own hands. But Qinfang understands and realizes that the monsters will eventually break through no matter what they do if this situation just comes down to who is stronger. However, one of the prisoners reaches his breaking point and makes the choice to end his own life by setting off an explosive device. Qinfang steps in and tries to stop the terrible thing from happening. Right at that moment, Wen Chao fires his weapon and shoots the prisoner dead because he was feeling confused and upset about what was going on. After shooting the prisoner, Wen Chao begins to cry heavily and starts having a severe panic attack where he cannot breathe properly. But Qinfang remembers back to his childhood days when he lived at the orphanage together with Wen Chao and how Chao always stood up for him and protected him whenever he was getting beaten up and attacked by a whole group of other children who picked on him. Back in the present, Qinfang tells Wen Chao that he needs to pull himself together and get control of his emotions because they are definitely going to escape from this place no matter what happens. Qinfang then walks over to the guy with blonde hair and asks him to open the door just a little bit because he wants to go outside and face whatever is out there. The blonde guy calls Qinfang completely insane and tells him not to bother him or break his concentration while he is working. Qinfang then takes out something from his pocket and explains that he plans to use this item to blow the outside door completely off its hinges and destroy it. Meanwhile, Liu and the others start hearing the heavy footsteps of a monster getting closer to them. Ifan asks Liu if he can use his special powers to help them jump down from their current position to safety. Liu refuses to do this and explains that his powers work by allowing him to create a specific point of gravity and fall toward it, and that point of gravity allows him to travel anywhere. He also adds that his power works within 10 meters, so he tells the girls to stay within 10 meters of him. All of a sudden, the dangerous monster shows up right behind where Angie and Ifan are standing, so Liu moves very quickly to grab both of them and pull them out of the way to safety. Liu immediately picks up a metal pipe from the ground and uses it as a weapon to attack the monster while the girl tries to run away as fast as her legs can carry her. Liu attempts to use the solid wall to pin the monster down and trap it there while he keeps hitting the exact same spot on the creature's neck over and over again. All of a sudden, the monster gets really angry and loses control of itself and begins to run away from the fight. But Angie and Ifan end up facing a completely different monster that suddenly appears directly in front of them and blocks their path. Angie tries to shoot the new monster with her weapon while she is still running at the same time, and Ifan tells her that she will open the door so they can escape through it. When Ifan finally manages to open the door and see what is inside, she quickly rushes inside the room but then pushes Angie away from the entrance. Liu manages to save Angie by grabbing another monster and throwing it at the one she is fighting. After that, he notices Angie is bleeding, but before he can help her, Ifan shows up again and points him toward the right path. Liu ignores him and instead runs off in the other direction. Meanwhile, he puts a steel bar down on the ground, and when the monster jumps at him, it gets killed by the bar. The bar breaks apart and the monster's body falls directly on top of Liu. Meanwhile, Qinfang is climbing upward while all the prisoners shout at him to come down, thinking that he might be trying to kill himself. Out of nowhere, a large piece of the building breaks off and crashes down, almost crushing the prisoners below, and the blonde guy starts wondering if Qinfang caused that on purpose. Qinfang manages to pull himself up, but then he notices the same robotic girl from before, and when he sees her half-torn face, he realizes she might actually be an android. Qinfang keeps moving forward, but suddenly the girl's broken face begins to shine with a strange light. Meanwhile, the scar on Liu's arm starts glowing too, and he finally wakes up, but when he walks over to Angie, she begins shaking badly because of all the bleeding. Liu looks around, trying to find some way to stop her blood loss, and then he notices her gun lying nearby, so he slowly moves toward it. All of a sudden, the monsters begin to stir as they are trapped under the rocks, but Liu quickly uses an empty bullet shell to collect some of Angie's blood. Right after that, he tries to fire at the monster, but in an instant, they vanish and disappear from sight. On the other side of things, Qinfang tries to force his body through a narrow pathway, but the walls start closing in and squeezing him from both sides. Then, someone quickly grabs his hand and pulls him out of the dangerous space just at the right moment before he gets crushed. The person who saved him turns out to be some guy with orange-colored hair who seems really frustrated and angry about all the tranquilizer drugs that people injected into his body. Chen Fang asks the orange-haired guy who he is and what he is doing in this place with them. The guy responds by explaining that he was actually sleeping peacefully, and when he finally woke up from his sleep, he found himself trapped in this strange location. The orange-haired guy then grabs Chen Fang tightly by his neck and demands to know where Tenju is located right now. Meanwhile, Tenju is urgently called into a meeting with the others, and the head of the group immediately tells him to begin with an explanation. Tenju says that they just received a sapphire signal from Aori, and the head demands to know why he decided to give the sapphire to his own son, Liu. Tenju answers that he did it because it was necessary, but one of the others argues that sapphire is not something a single person can handle alone. Tenju explains that before giving it to Liu, he thought through all the different possibilities and risks that could happen. In the meantime, Liu tries to hit the solid walls as hard as he possibly can to create an escape route for them, but the metal bar he is using breaks into pieces, and he completely breaks down and starts crying while thinking that he cannot allow Angie to die in this terrible place. All of a sudden, his arm begins to glow with a bright light again, and Liu starts wondering if his father has somehow put something special inside his body. So, he reaches out and grabs the glowing light button with his hand, and a computer system starts up and activates just like a regular computer would. Liu tells the computer system to search for information about Bloodivores, and it displays lots of detailed information on the screen for him to read. Then, he specifically looks up detailed information about blood transfusions that take place between different types of Bloodivores and how they work. He suddenly realizes and completely understands that he can use this very important knowledge and medical information to actually save Angie's life from whatever is happening to her. After that, he decides to look for specific information about Aori, and the computer system tells him that in this particular place a dangerous drug was created and developed exactly 43 years ago, and this drug was called Lullaby. The system explains that 2 years after the drug was made, a serious side effect from using Lullaby for a long time started to appear in people. Then, the government decided to put a complete lockdown on the entire Aori area to keep all the Bloodivores separated from the rest of the population. He then makes the decision to search for information about death row inmates who are kept in this facility, but the computer system asks him to enter a secret password before he can access this restricted information. After that, Liu bites down hard on his own arm to make it bleed and then pours his blood directly into Angie's mouth so she can drink it and hopefully get better. At the same time, Chen Fang is still trying his best to explain to the guy with orange hair what is really happening in this place, but the orange-haired guy does not take any of Chen Fang's words seriously at all. Right at that moment, a dangerous monster suddenly appears in front of them, and the orange-haired guy destroys it completely with just one powerful punch from his fist. More and more monsters start showing up and appearing around them, and the guy immediately begins to beat all of them up like they are nothing more than a piece of cake that he can easily handle. Since the wall that was protecting the other prisoners also breaks down and falls apart, they cannot stop looking at the orange-haired guy with amazement, and they start thinking that he must be some kind of godlike person with incredible powers. On the other hand, Angie turns into some kind of vampire and bites Liu's neck, and he remembers the system said that even in cases of transfusions between compatible blood types, the recipient may sometimes enter a frenzy. Meanwhile, Li Xin launches an attack against the orange-haired guy, and it becomes clear that the two of them have actually known each other for a very long time in the past. The orange-haired guy's real name turns out to be Liu Yao, and Li Xin really hates him with all his heart, so he uses his sharp sword to attack Liu Yao. He easily and casually dodges every single one of his attacks without any effort. However, Liu Yao tells Li Xin that he needs to come at him with even more speed and much greater strength than before, so Li Xin uses his powerful sword, which cuts and slices everything that is around them except for Liu Yao himself. However, Liu Yao then quickly runs toward where the other people are standing and asks Li Xin why he is holding back his true power and not fighting seriously, and then he grabs some prisoners and throws them directly at Li Xin. After that happens, Liu Yao grabs and steals Li Xin's sword right out of his hands and begins to fight with it himself, saying that he cannot believe Li Xin would dare to come and attack him when he is still this weak and pathetic. Soon after the fight, Liu Yao manages to completely defeat Li Xin in their battle, and Li Xin drops all of his weapons onto the ground in surrender. Liu Yao then tells Li Xin that he is now going to taste and drink his blood as punishment for fighting him. When all the other people see what is happening, they suddenly realize and understand that Liu Yao is actually a dangerous bloodivore who feeds on human blood. Liu Yao opens his mouth and sinks his sharp teeth deep into Li Xin's neck to bite him, but then he suddenly pulls back and moves away from Li Xin's neck. Lu Yao says that he does not really need Li Xin's blood after all and that he was only making a joke to scare him. After saying this, Lu Yao tilts his head to one side and tells Li Xin that he should cut his head off and kill him right now, but right at that moment he notices the strange metal collar that is around Li Xin's neck. Lu Yao asks what this collar device is and why Li Xin is wearing it. The blonde-haired guy quickly explains to Lu Yao that it is a collar that is shaped like a bomb, and it will explode and kill the person wearing it the exact moment that the digital counter on it reaches 0. The blonde guy then says that he is a big fan of Luo Yao, and he even blocked the door so the monsters could not get inside, before starting to praise him non-stop. Watching this, the other prisoners think that he is only sucking up to him for no real reason. At the same time, the blonde guy explains further that these collar-shaped devices are actually put on them to stop the prisoners from killing each other. When Luo Yao hears that, he gives a small smile and then suddenly punches the blonde guy, which makes Luo Yao's collar counter go up by 1. Chen Fang quickly figures out that the counter rises every time someone kills another person. Meanwhile, Lu finally wakes up beside Angie, who is also awake, but when he looks around, he sees that the wall near them has been completely destroyed. Lu then carries Angie on his back and starts walking outside, saying she shouldn't look. On their way, Angie asks him why he always saves her, but Lu asks her if she remembers when they first met. Then we get a flashback where two boys who are Win Chao and Chen Fang start picking up on Lu, and they even give a gift to Angie, who happily talks to them, and seeing her face reminds him of his mother and he starts crying. Back in present, Angie asks him why he is lying that he is an orphan when he is not, and then a flying monster starts approaching them. Meanwhile, the prisoners struggle to open the gate, and Luo Yao turns to Li Xin, demanding an explanation and asking if this place is really a prison, but Li Xin ignores him completely. On the other side, Chen Fang tells Win Chao that they have to find Angie and Lu, but right then Luo Yao suddenly shows up and takes off all of his own clothes, leaving Chen Fang shocked and confused. Luo Yao then grabs Chen Fang's clothes and puts them on, while Win Chao tells him to focus on getting everyone out of there. At the same time, Lu and Angie are resting on the edge of the building, where Angie quietly asks him why he always came back to the orphanage without ever telling anyone about it. Lu looks at her and asks if she still doubts him the same way she does now, but before she can answer, she begins coughing badly and tells Lu to leave her behind and go search for Chen Fang and Win Chao instead. On the other side, Lu Yao walks toward the exit door and tells everyone that they are all death row prisoners and now they want to have a luxury like freedom that they do not deserve. He then breaks the strong metal gate completely with just one finger and tells all of them that no one else is going to come and save them from this place and they have to create and carve their own path to freedom by themselves. This makes Win Chao start crying with tears in his eyes, and he says that he is going to follow Lu Yao wherever he goes, and along with him, many other prisoners also start shouting and chanting the same thing loudly. However, Chen Fang tells Win Chao that he should not go with Lu Yao because they still have the important job of finding Angie and Lu, who are missing somewhere in this place. But Win Chao replies back to him that Lu and Angie have already forgotten about them completely and left them behind without caring. After saying this, Win Chao leaves the area with Lu Yao and the other prisoners, and then Li Xin arrives and asks Chen Fang if he is currently searching for Lu. Li Xin explains to him that Lu was his partner when they were both trapped in a cabinet together, and Lu managed to escape by crawling into an air duct with two girls who were with him. Meanwhile, the detective goes to the orphanage where Lu and the others once lived, and he shows a woman a picture of Lu, asking if she knows him. The woman looks at the photo and tells him that Lu was never one of their children. She also explains that the orphanage accepted Bloodivore kids as well, and donors would often send stuffed animals for them. When the detective picks up one of the stuffed toys to check it, he suddenly finds that something has been hidden inside of it. On the other side, Chen Fang asks Li Xin to tell him the exact location of where the air duct is that Lu and Angie went into to escape from this place. But Li Xin explains to him that it was before he completely sealed off the storage room with his powers. He also tells Chen Fang some important information that Lu is actually a hemomancer who used those special blood abilities to help them escape, but Chen Fang asks Li Xin if he is trying to trick him and deceive him with false information. All of a sudden, Li Xin discovers and finds the dead bodies of all the dangerous monsters that Lu Yao killed completely by himself using only his bare hands. Chen Fang asks Li Xin about what kind of relationship he has with Lu Yao and why he did not kill Lu Yao when he had the chance to do it. However, Li Xin responds by saying that there is absolutely no point in knowing all of that information and details, just like that android robot told them. Li Xin gets annoyed with Chen Fang's useless questions, but then both of them are surprised when the bodies of the monsters suddenly start disappearing right in front of their eyes. Chen Fang reaches out and touches the strange tearing things coming out of their bodies, and he realizes that there is a human-shaped crystal hidden inside one of the monsters. He wonders why something like that would even be inside a monster's body. Just as Chenfang begins to feel uneasy about it, Li Xin grabs the crystal and says that if this was really inside those monsters, then it must be something unusual, but before they can think more about it, the crystal melts away and completely disappears. Meanwhile, the detective rips open all the stuffed animals and collects several hidden USB devices from inside them. When he plays one of the recordings, he hears familiar voices, and it turns out to be Angie, Win Chao, Lu, and Chenfang. In the recording, they are secretly making a plan to protect the orphanage from being sold, because if it gets bought by someone else, the children will end up thrown out on the streets. During the talk, Angie asks Lu if there is any way they can save the orphanage, but Lu explains that the real estate agency is connected to Saiken Bank, and everything is controlled there. He then says that if they want to do something about it, their only choice might be to get there and rob the bank. In the present time, Lu is carrying Angie somewhere safe, but she suddenly falls down onto the hard ground and cannot get back up. Lu starts hearing some familiar noises that sound like his friends calling out to him, but then a dangerous monster suddenly appears right in front of them. On the other side, Li Xin and Chenfang are walking through the exact same corridor where Lu was before and where he had to face and fight against the monsters earlier. All of a sudden, both of them start hearing a very strange and loud noise that almost hurts their heads and makes them feel dizzy and confused. So, Li Xin takes out his sharp knife from his pocket and uses it to open a room door that is locked. At the same time in another location, Lu is fighting against a strange and scary monster and keeps beating it over and over again with a heavy rock that he found on the ground. But the powerful monster throws Lu aside and then grabs Angie tightly using its big mouth. Sometime later, Lu slowly opens his eyes and sees a blonde girl sitting on top of him, staring at him without saying a word. When Lu asks who she is, she quickly moves away like a cat, keeping her distance. Lu then stands up and looks around, realizing that the place they are in now looks like a fast food restaurant. After that, he comes across Li Xin, Chenfang, and Angie, but right away Chenfang punches Lu and angrily asks how he could let something like that happen to Angie. Chenfang completely breaks down, shouting that he trusted Lu to protect her and that he didn't even keep his promise. Hearing this, Lu begins crying too and says there was nothing he could do, then he suddenly punches Chenfang back, and the two of them start fighting each other fiercely. Later that night, Chenfang talks to Lu and tells him that they had been following him earlier and saw him fighting a monster in that place. Hearing this explanation, Li Xin asks Lu why he did not use his special hemomancy powers during the dangerous fight against the monster. Lu explains to him that he had already used up and exhausted all of his blood powers in a previous battle that happened before this one. After hearing this, Chenfang tells both of them that he is going to leave this place right now and go find Win Chao somewhere else in this facility. Li Xin then asks Lu what exactly happened with Ifan and where she went, but Lu does not reply or give him any answer at all. So, Li Xin decides to leave the area as well and goes his own way. Sometime later, Angie opens her eyes again when the small cat girl sleeps peacefully on her chest. After that, Lu sits by himself alone in the restaurant area somewhere when Angie walks up to where he is sitting and then leaves the restaurant, and Lu quietly follows behind her. She then happily asks him where they are located right now, but Lu is still completely surprised and shocked to see that Angie is alive and walking around. Right at that moment, Chenfang also wakes up from his sleep and walks up to where Lu is standing, but when he sees Angie standing there he gets very surprised and runs over to give her a hug. Later on, everyone carefully examines Angie's body and Lu says that her metal collar around her neck and her physical condition seem completely fine and normal. But Li Xin still could not believe or accept that she actually came back to life after what happened to her. However, Angie asks all of them if they really think that she was completely dead before this moment. But Lu asks her if she can remember what exactly happened to them during the attack, and she responds by saying that they were attacked by dangerous monsters and then Lu and she ran away together to escape from them. She suddenly remembers something and tells the others that when she first woke up, there was a blonde girl sitting beside her, wearing a nice dress. Chenfang asks if she might be talking about a girl named Yaya, and just then they notice the same blonde girl sitting on the roof, quietly watching them. Chenfang explains that she is Yaya, a girl who cannot speak properly, but since she always shouted, Yaya, they all started calling her by that name. Everyone calls out to Yaya and asks her to come down, but she ignores them completely. Then, without warning, Yaya suddenly leaps down onto Chenfang's face and quickly runs off to hide behind Angie. However, Lu asks Chenfang what this girl is doing here, so he tells them that while they were looking for him, they passed in front of a certain room which was completely shedding its own skin, and when Li Xin tries to check the material, his knife melts. There they also find Yaya sleeping on the floor, but then the entire room suddenly begins to melt around them. Chenfang quickly picks her up in his arms and rushes out of the room. The reason Li Xin didn't grab the girl himself is because he has a deep phobia of women. Afterward, everyone starts to think that the reason the monsters' corpses keep disappearing might be connected to the strange room Chen Fang mentioned before. Lu then turns to Chen Fang and asks him to take him back to that room. Later on, Lu and Chen Fang walk together toward that specific room they need to visit, and Chen Fang asks Lu why he really needs to go to that particular room right now. So, Lu asks Chen Fang if he can remember what exactly happened to them before they woke up inside the warehouse where they were trapped. Lu explains that when the metal gates opened up, his head did not hurt him at all, but it started hurting very badly when he found and entered the room where Yaya was being kept inside. However, Chen Fang asks Lu what all of this information has to do with their current situation and why it matters. So, Lu responds by saying that he does not think that Yaya was actually among the regular prisoners who were being held in the warehouse with them. At the same time in another location, Li Xin is having a really hard time dealing with two girls who are causing problems for him. But he asks Angie if she has any kind of idea or knowledge about why she was brought to this dangerous place, but she tells him that she has absolutely no idea why she is here. He asks Angie why the android looked so much like her, but Angie frowns and asks if he is starting to suspect her. Suddenly, Li Xin notices Yaya's collar strap and quickly goes to check it, discovering that it has the number 5 written on it. Meanwhile, Lu and Chen Fang come across a monster inside the building, while outside they see some of Luo Yao's followers standing guard with guns in their hands. However, the follower talks to themselves about some weapons and Lu realizes that they are collecting weapons, but then, Angie starts speaking in Lu's transceiver phone and the follower realizes something is wrong. Angie then tells Lu some important information that the digital counter on Yaya's metal collar around her neck is now down to only 5 numbers left before something bad happens. So Lu tells Angie that she needs to take good care of Yaya and watch over her until he and Chen Fang come back from their mission. All of a sudden, Angie hears the loud sounds of gunshots being fired somewhere nearby, and it turns out that Lu Yao's followers are just shooting at the empty ground because they thought that someone was hiding in that area and trying to escape from them. Right at that moment, Lu and Chen Fang decide to surrender themselves to the armed followers and tell them that they need their help with something important, explaining that they really want to meet and speak with Lu Yao directly. At the same time in the other location, Angie is getting very worried and nervous about what might happen to her friends. So, Li Xin tells her that Lu and Chen Fang might have run into some of Lu Yao's dangerous guys who work for him, and Angie asks Li Xin who Lu Yao is and what kind of person he is. Li Xin explains to Angie that Lu Yao is a very dangerous S-rank criminal who was imprisoned here in this Aori facility along with all of them. He tells her that now Lu Yao has created and formed an armed group of followers inside Aori so that he can get his revenge against the BST organization that put him here. On the other side of the facility, Lu tells Chen Fang that they are going to raise and increase Yaya's collar counter numbers by defeating and killing dangerous monsters that are roaming around this place. He explains that to accomplish this difficult task, they will need to borrow some powerful weapons from Lu Yao and his armed group. Right at that moment, a huge monster's arm suddenly appears out of nowhere and grabs one of Lu Yao's soldiers and drags him away to attack him. But Lu and Chen Fang quickly ran away from the dangerous area as fast as they could to escape from the monster. After that incident, Lu and Chen Fang run quickly to find Lu Yao and his group, but Chen Fang is still very confused and does not understand how Lu plans to save Yaya by capturing a dangerous monster alive. However, Lu feels completely sure and confident about his plan and says that there are several important things that he has noticed and observed during their time here. So, if everything goes according to his plan and works out well, he thinks that they will definitely be able to save Yaya's life before her collar timer runs out. All of a sudden, they hear the loud sound of a gunshot being fired somewhere nearby and they realize that it might be coming from Lu Yao and his armed followers. So, they decide to go toward the direction of the gunshot sound to find them. Win Chao on the other side of the facility is shooting his weapon at a completely different type of monster that has completely lost its control and gone wild. Just as the dangerous monster starts moving toward Win Chao to attack him, Lu quickly grabs Win Chao by the arm and pulls him away from the monster to safety. Lu tells Win Chao that he should not kill that particular monster because he needs it alive for his plan, but Win Chao feels confused and does not understand what Lu is talking about at all. Lu quickly tells Win Chao that they will talk later, and then grabs hold of the monster's chain and moves smoothly across it to get over him. Watching this, Win Chao starts to wonder if Lu might actually be a hemomancer. Right after that, Lu kicks the monster hard in the head, knocking it to the ground, and in an instant the creature transforms back into a kid. Everyone looks at him in surprise and says that he has returned to normal. Meanwhile, Chen Fang asks Win Chao to come along with them, saying that the 4 of them should get back together again, but Win Chao refuses and tells him that they are all strangers now. After that, Win Chao walks over to Lu and asks him why he is here. Lu replies that they came to meet his boss and now he has also grown curious about this boy as well. The other prisoners then say that the boy had been holding a rock shaped like a doll, but it melted away. Win Chao tells everyone to stay quiet and asks Lu what he really wants from Luo Yao. Lu answers that they are hoping to make a deal with him. Meanwhile, Li Xin starts feeling unwell, so he tells Angie that he is going outside, but the moment he steps out, his whole body begins changing into a sword-like shape, making him look more like a monster than a human. At the same time, Chenfang tells Lu that both he and Li Xin had also found a doll-shaped rock earlier. Lu asks if he touched it and Chenfang admits that he did, but nothing happened to him. However, when Li Xin touched it, the rock melted away just like the one the boy had been holding. Lu reveals that those blood-red stones are the key to awakening their hemomancy powers, and once their powers are awakened, countless people's lives will be thrown into chaos. Afterward, they arrive outside Luo Yao's room, where he is busy trying to drink some blood, but Lu calls out to him and asks if he knows Li Xin. A moment later, Luo Yao opens the door and introduces himself, and right then a girl also appears at the door, who turns out to be Ifan. Once they all step inside the room, Lu begins explaining that something strange happened last night that they have been thinking about. He tells him that Li Xin bit off a piece of his own sword and swallowed it. Hearing this, Luo Yao says that it means Li Xin's powers are awakening, but then he tells Lu to stop circling around and get straight to the point. Lu then explains to him that their counters go up whenever they kill monsters, and if they don't, they will all eventually die. He adds that they also have a child with them who has no physical abilities, and they want to protect her no matter what. However, Lu tells him that he wants to borrow some of his weapons to help keep her safe. Luo Yao then shows Lu his weapon inventory but says that it's not for free. In the meantime, Yaya is hiding underneath a table while looking at Li Xin, who is acting very strange and unusual. When Angie sees what is happening to him, she realizes that swords are actually coming out of his body in different places. Then Li Xin uses his powerful thunderstorm ability to completely destroy and wreck the area around them, while Angie and Yaya try their best to hide and take cover from the destruction. On the other hand, Lu Yao shows Lu the special barrier that surrounds all of Aori in exchange for Lu sharing so much valuable information with him about their situation. Lu Yao explains to Lu that this barrier exists here to keep all of them trapped inside this place, and if Lu is not very careful around it, the barrier will suck him inside and destroy him completely. Lu Yao also tells Lu that until they manage to take down and destroy this powerful barrier, no one will ever be getting out of Aori alive. But he tells Lu that his special hemomancy powers might actually be useful and strong enough to destroy the barrier completely. However, Lu refuses Lu Yao's suggestion and says that his powers are definitely not strong enough to do that. After hearing this, Lu Yao throws Lu directly toward the dangerous barrier, but Lu manages to dodge it just in time. Then Lu Yao tries to attack Lu because he does not like being friends with someone who might be stronger than he is. However, Lu tries to push Lu Yao towards the barrier, but then Lu runs with Chenfang after throwing the grenade at Lu Yao, but it doesn't affect him. Win Chao also finds Lu's transceiver on the ground, on which Angie is asking for help. Afterward, Lu and Chenfang land in a far part of the city with a bag full of bombs, and Chenfang asks Lu what kind of deal he makes with Lu Yao. Lu tells him that there is no deal at all, because Lu Yao only wants to help them, but Lu says he refuses his offer. Chenfang is confused and wonders why he does that, since it would make catching monsters much easier, but Lu explains that it is not about him and it is because of Ifan, who is a hemomancer and can read people's minds. After that, they decide to head back to Angie and start running, while Lu keeps thinking about how his father might be linked to Lu Yao. On the other side, the detective is sitting with his assistant, and the assistant explains that he checks the whole list of donors but finds out that all the names are fake, yet by looking through the money transfer logs, he is able to figure out who the real people are. He then explains that one girl's name is Shimon Guching, and even though she also uses a fake name, the strange thing is that after Shimon goes missing, the donations under her name still keep coming. He adds that the money is being sent from the lab where she used to work, but the detective starts wondering why the people in the bank had to be killed in the first place. After thinking for a while, he decides to step out for some fresh air, but the moment he gets out of the car, a large container suddenly falls and crushes it, and right away someone begins firing shots at the detective from above. The detective quickly hides behind the side of a building for cover, but then two more armed agents arrive trying to finish him off, and he manages to shoot both of them before they can attack. When he moves closer to check their bodies, he is shocked to see that the two of them are actually agents working for BST. Meanwhile, Angie and Yaya are still hiding from Li Xin, but Yaya is not able to hold back her voice and it slips out, and right then a monster suddenly charges straight at both Angie and Yaya, so Li Xin steps in and kills it for them. After that, more and more monsters slowly begin to appear, and Li Xin keeps cutting them down one after another without stopping. At the same time, Luo Yao is holding a hunting party aimed at Lu because he wants to see for himself if Lu is truly able to capture a monster. Back at Angie's place, Li Xin shows up right in front of Angie and Yaya. Just as he tries to launch an attack on her, Lu suddenly jumps in and pushes him away. However, Angie asks Chen Fang how they ended up getting to this place, so he explains that they heard the dying scream of a monster and thought they were in this area. However, Lu tries his best to knock out Li Xin, but Li Xin creates swords from his own body to attack Lu and then starts running after him through the area. Lu tells Chen Fang to run away quickly with Angie and Yaya, and Chen Fang tells Angie that they have a plan to save Yaya, but, in this plan, she has to kill the monster by herself. Meanwhile, Lu is still running away from Li Xin and tries to dodge his sword-throwing abilities, but since Lu doesn't have any time to waste on fighting Li Xin, he decides to turn around and fight him directly, but Li Xin's sharp sword hits him hard, and he falls down on the ground. Lu still gets back up and tries to walk away from the area, but Li Xin creates a sword from his own arm and walks towards Lu, who then screams out loud. All of a sudden, a monster's large arm appears out of nowhere and grabs Li Xin to drag him inside the building. Li Xin tries to stop the attack by using his sword, but the strong monster throws him around like he weighs nothing. On the other hand, Angie asks Chen Fang to tell her everything about their plan they have, so he explains to her that after leaving them behind to go meet Lu Yao, they were attacked by a giant monster, but they managed to get back to safety without getting hurt. He also tells her that they will have Yaya trigger the explosives that are set up, and if the building collapses and crushes the monster to death, and then Yaya will finally be saved from danger. On the other hand, Lu hears the loud screams of Li Xin coming from inside the building, and he sees that Li Xin is coming back outside with the monster's head attached to him, trying his best to kill it by using his body generation swords that he can make. He then grabs one of his swords and kills the monster by using the swords that were generating from his own body parts. After that happens, another monster appears right in front of Li Xin, but he drops all his swords on the ground and tries to awaken even more powerful abilities that he has, but Lu starts running towards him to help him out. After that happens, Yaya starts screaming like a crazy person, but Chen Fang tells her to follow him and tries to calm her down, so she stops yelling. He then starts wondering if Yaya can actually sense the monsters that are around them, and then he picks up Yaya in his arms. Angie arrives at the place where Li Xin is fighting with the monster, and Lu tries to take him away from the dangerous monster, but Li Xin pushes Lu away from him roughly. Li Xin then tries to attack Lu with his sharp sword, but Lu puts the sword right in his chest, which then breaks apart into pieces, and Lu realizes that he can even break metal objects with his strength. The monster then grabs Li Xin using its long tongue, but Li Xin uses his thunder-type sword ability and tries to kill the monster with electric power. Lu grabs the monster's strong arm and throws it away from Li Xin and then kicks him hard. Afterward, the monster returns back to his den, but Li Xin blocks every way for Lu to escape and throws his swords at him. Seeing what happens, Angie thinks that she has to do something to help and calls out to Li Xin, and then he immediately tries to attack her with his sword, but Chen Fang appears in front of her and the sharp swords go inside his chest deeply. He tells Yaya to get away from this place right now, as he is going to try to stop Li Xin from hurting anyone else, but then Li Xin tries to cut off Chen Fang's head, but Lu appears quickly and pushes Li Xin away from him. Chen Fang tells Angie that Lu plans to die together with Li Xin in this fight. He also adds that Lu is giving them enough time to escape from this dangerous place, so they have to go right now, but Angie says that they cannot leave him behind like that without helping. Even though Chen Fang tries to force her to leave, she refuses to leave Lu behind to fight alone, but then Yaya grabs their bag that is full of grenades and explosives. Seeing that she has the bag, Angie suggests that they should use these grenades against Li Xin to stop him, but Chen Fang slaps her hard across the face, saying it will not work against him at all. However, Angie asks him if he remembers that no one ever cares for them and they were never praised or scolded by anyone in their lives, but she says that it was just a coincidence that they all met each other and became someone like a real family to each other, so she does not want to feel lonely again like before. On the other hand, Lu is still fighting hard with Li Xin, who is using his fidget spinner move against Lu, who keeps running around to avoid getting hit. Right at that moment, Angie grabs a grenade from the bag that they have with them, and Lu tells her to throw the explosive grenade when he counts all the way up to 5. She then throws the grenade directly toward Li Xin, who is still acting strange and dangerous, but Li Xin just throws the grenade away from himself using his sharp sword to deflect it. The grenade then almost hits Lu directly and could seriously hurt him, but Angie uses her special power and ability to make the grenade go back toward Li Xin instead, and the grenade then explodes. After this explosion happens, both Lu and Li Xin fall down hard on the ground and cannot get back up on their own. Angie tries her best to wake up Lu and get him to respond to her voice, but he keeps bleeding badly from his serious wounds all over his body. She starts crying with tears streaming down her face because she is very scared and worried that something terrible might happen to Liu. Just then, Li Xin gets back up and walks toward Angie in his dangerous hemomancer form, but she gets really angry and grabs a sword from the ground. Angie tries to kill Li Xin with the sword, but Liu stops her from doing it, and then, Li Xin passes out and falls on the ground unconscious. Later that night, Liu tells the others that the wolf boy from before came back to his normal senses after his crazy rampage ended, so there are good chances that Li Xin would also return to normal eventually. However, Angie still feels really bad that she almost killed him with the grenade if Liu had not stopped her from doing it. Liu then asks her to give him her transceiver device and explains that they need to carry out their plan to save Yaya from the dangerous situation. He then decides to set up that building with grenades and explosives and says that he will go by himself into that building to put all the explosives in the right place. However, the most important thing is that the monsters need to stay inside the building and have Yaya trigger all the explosives as he exits the building safely. After that incident, Liu goes back to the main building so he can plant dangerous explosives in different locations, but then he notices a scary monster that is wandering around the area and moving through different places. However, Liu uses strong tape to carefully plant the explosive devices in the right spots and wonders to himself if he would actually be able to escape from the building safely if all the explosives explode at the same time. He then discovers a massive hole that goes through the roof of the building and decides that he will go through this opening to get to another area. This hole leads him directly into a large library room, and he realizes that there are good chances that the monsters have not been in this particular room yet. However, when he looks around the library more carefully, he finds the dead corpse of a person sitting beside the floor in one corner. On the other side of the situation, Angie and the other people are standing outside the building waiting for something to happen. Since it has already been 30 minutes since they started waiting, Angie starts wondering and worrying that Li Xin should be completely okay now, especially since he still has not opened his eyes yet after what happened to him. She curses herself for never doing anything useful for the team and only causing trouble again and again. Suddenly, she notices a rock shifting slightly on the ground and remembers that something also moved earlier when she threw the bomb. Curious, she reaches out and pushes the rock with her hand, and to her surprise, it really does move. On the other hand, Liu studies the corpse nearby and realizes that something is not right about it as the body doesn't even have a collar strap attached. Moreover, Liu looks around the room and realizes that this person might have lived here for a while, but then, he finds a locket and remembers something. Afterward, we see a flashback where Liu receives a locket from his mother as a birthday present. Back in the present, when Liu opens the same locket, he finds a picture of his mother inside. He then begins searching around the place and comes across a journal. He reads that they discovered a cave filled with bugs, but the scientists believed they could control them and wrote that more people needed to be brought into Aori. Liu then turns on his computer system and searches for Aori, Plan B, and the screen shows him pictures of several children, including Angie. Realizing this, Liu understands that she was actually one of the subjects of Plan B. Digging deeper, he manages to access BST files, but right at that moment, a monster suddenly appears out of nowhere and the floor collapses beneath him. In the meantime, Angie tells Chenfang that he needs to take good care of Yaya and watch over her because she is going to go and check on Liu to see if he is okay. On the other side of the building, Liu almost gets completely eaten and killed by a dangerous monster when another different monster suddenly appears out of nowhere and both monsters start fighting each other violently. Angie then uses her special hemomancy powers to stop one of the monsters from attacking Liu any further. Liu suddenly realizes and understands that Angie is also a hemomancer just like him and has blood powers that she can use. Outside the building, Liu Yao's armed men also arrive at their location, and this group includes Wen Chao, who is with them. Wen Chao then asks Chenfang if he is completely alone in this area and what exactly happened to Liu and Angie during their mission, but then Wen Chao notices that Yaya is there with them. All of a sudden, Liu and Angie manage to get outside of the building while being chased by the dangerous monsters, and Liu tells Angie that she needs to force the monster to go inside the building using her powers. She uses her special abilities to trap the monster inside the building so it cannot escape from there. Chenfang then gives Yaya the bomb switch device and tells her that she needs to flip the switch to activate the explosives. She then activates the bomb, and the entire building begins to collapse around them while Yaya's collar counter jumps up to 55. Afterward, Wen Chao notices something unusual. He recognizes Angie's shadow, the same one that has always been with her since the very beginning, even back on the day when they were robbing the bank. Suddenly, the Aori barriers flare up and more monsters start pouring out from them. Wen Chao quickly grabs Angie and tries to pull her away to safety. However, just as one of the monsters is about to strike Liu down, Li Xin arrives in time and saves him. Li Xin manages to kill as many dangerous monsters as he possibly could using all of his strength and fighting skills, and he even sacrifices one of his own arms to save Lu's life from the attacking creatures. Another monster almost kills Wen Chao and is about to finish him off, but Lu Yao arrives just in time and saves Wen Chao from death. Lu Yao's entire army also arrives at the location, and all the soldiers start shooting their weapons at those monsters that are attacking everyone. Lu Yao then sees that Li Xin is starting to activate his powerful hemomancy abilities to fight the monsters, but Lu Yao quickly stops him from doing this and tells him that he will end up killing himself if he uses his hemomancy powers in that dangerous way. Lu Yao then tries to kill Li Xin with his own hands, but Angie stops Lu Yao from hurting Li Xin by using her special powers to protect him. After that happens, another massive and giant monster suddenly appears out of nowhere and tries to attack Lu Yao. But Lu Yao uses his incredible power and strength, and with just a single powerful punch from his fist, he completely eliminates and destroys the giant monster. Inside that dead monster's body, a girl suddenly appears in a glowing hologram shape who turns out to be Lu's mother. That's all for today, my fellow men of culture. Make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more.